I'd like to welcome you to our Hamilton County Board of Elections, today's September the 27th, 2021. And it's a special meeting, and it's approximately 8:31. I'd like to have everyone stand first with the Pledge of Allegiance, and as I always request, anyone that is a soldier, stand up and start us with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, sail, all right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and again, thanks for serving our country. I'd also like to indicate that proper notice has been given as required under the Ohio Revised Code 121.22. Next on our agenda, we need to approve our board meeting minutes. The dates of those minutes was September the 9th, 2021, and September the 16th, 2021. Everyone should have received their minutes copy and reviewed those. Are there any changes? Then I'd like to entertain a motion that we approve.
I'll make a motion that we approve both the meeting minutes from September 9th as well as the September 16th board meetings.
I second it.
Second, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I got it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries. We have a hearing regarding a registered voter challenge, and I'm going to, Sherry, can you clarify? Give us
Yes.
some information regarding this particular item.
Mr. Eckert, our registration administrator, will present the challenge to the board.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So in your packet, you have a spreadsheet, challenge voters, September 17th. Filed by Mr. Janis. Again, the challenges were filed on September 17th.
Can you?
Got it this time.
All right. Now
On
we
the
go.
21st of September, a letter, a copy of the challenge, and a registration form was sent to the registered voter. Also, a subpoena was issued as requested by Mr. Janis. On September 23rd, we received an email from the sheriff that this was a bad address as there was no home no residential dwelling on the property. On September the 22nd, supplemental information was filed by Mr. Janis. It was a Sycamore Township Fire Department incident report. To date, we have had no contact from the voter, no update to the registration, and there has been no mail that has been returned to us as undeliverable.
So the address, or the individual that was living there, when you tried to get in contact with him, the message was forwarded and they have not responded.
Well, assuming there's a forwarding order on. We
Okay.
only had the residential address for the voter, so that's where it was sent. So if there's a forwarding order on, it would then be forwarded. If not, it will be returned to us as undeliverable, but we have yet to receive anything.
Okay, so it hasn't been received, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was a fire at the residence, am I correct?
Apparently so, based on the supplemental information that was provided to us on the 22nd by Mr. Janis.
Yeah, so the record's clear. We have in our packets a Sycamore Township Fire Department report. An incident occurred at 8506 Needlewood Court, which is the subject of this challenge, and it looks like on November I just saw the date, went right out of my head, but it was November of last year, where this house essentially burned to the ground, if you read through the report, which I just did.
It looks like it did, yeah.
So, anyway, I don't have anything else for Chuck. I would be interested to hear from the challenger about what other information he may have as to why we ought to challenge someone who is involuntarily, it would appear to me, put out of their residence. And there's always the question as well about whether they intend to return to the rebuilt structure after this fire. And speaking again from just commonsensically here, I mean, I don't know that changing your voter address is the first thing you think of when your house burns to the ground. But anyway, be curious to see what Mr. Janis has to say about his challenge on this one.
Well, the other thought too is, I mean, I know we've had fires in not only in my township, and in other areas as well. And if it's a bad fire, especially if it was burnt to the ground, it may take a year and a half, or 2 years for an individual to get the home rebuilt, if they're gonna, to even make a decision. So I would like to hear from Mr. Janis. I'm just processing this myself. Mr. Janis?
I should swear him in.
Mr. Janis, I'd like to get you sworn in, please.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joseph Janis Jr. I live at 4462 Daffodil Avenue, Sycamore Township, Ohio. I'm an actively registered voter, unaffiliated voter, Ward Sycamore, Precinct L like Lincoln. During my travels in Sycamore Township, on an adjacent street, William Street, which intersects with Needlewood Court, I became aware of a burned out residential structure. Over time, many weeks, many months, as I was passing through that area, the first time I observed the house, it was still standing but heavily damaged, obviously by fire. There was remnants of the fire strewn all over the property. Eventually that was cleared up. There was a burned out car in the front driveway. Eventually that was removed. There was an attached carport to the house. Somebody subsequently put a blue tarp over that. The next thing I'm aware, the entire house was demolished, cleared off the property. As Mr. Triantafilo had indicated, I wasn't sure exactly when the fire had occurred. Made a public records request of the Sycamore Township Fire Department. They supplied me a copy of the fire report. The fire occurred, according to them, on November 28th, 2020. The report is 11 pages long. And in the back pages, pages 9 and 10, at least on my copy, on the original copy, it's colors, pictures, and I believe in the slang vernacular of the fire department that shows a totally engulfed working structure fire. The house, the remnants of the shells, if you will, still stood, so it was not, to use the word, burned completely to the ground. In the past, some of you are aware that I have filed for similar situations, and you've upheld my challenge on that. I agree to an extent with Mr. Triantafilo has explained or stated this morning about residents and fires, and the director about time passing and so forth. However, in my opinion, I'm not a carpenter, but there is some improvements starting off now, meaning basic frame to the house. I do not believe between now and the 2021 Ohio Fall General Election on November 2nd, 2021, there could be possibly a house completely built on that address that would be approved for habitation, unless a large crew worked on it 24/7, or if they installed a modular home. Based on some framing that's going on there now, does not appear that the framing is going to go on now. Made a public records or review from the Hamilton County Auditor's Office of this address. Property was transferred on September 11, 2017 to a man who's a resident of Amberley Village, Ohio. So the property is owned by an absentee landlord. On Friday, September 17th, 2021, I pulled off from the County Board of Elections site their voter registration list The page 29, which lists the defendant, Lester Leanne Becker, as an actively registered voter, unaffiliated voter from that address. These records reflect from the general election November 2015, and has even a space for the general election which is coming up November of 2021. These records show that the only time the defendant voted from that address was in person for the general election in November of 2020. I also included at the time of my initial filing with the voter registration challenge and the precipice a copy from the Hamilton County, Ohio auditor site. Apparently a representative of their office took a picture dated in the lower right corner, August 26, 2021. In the color version, it's very easily discernible. It's a vacant lot. There's no residence on it. In the last week, I received an email from Administrator Eckert, who spoke earlier here today, and it has some pictures taken by a representative of the County Sheriff's Department. Again, it's in color. And apparently this wooden upright structure in the front is commonly used in new home constructions, and it basically is supporting a, in my view, installation of a temporary electrical outlet so they can have power to that site. The second page shows the numerical address, 8506. If you look behind it, you'll see basically an empty lot with the beginning of some wooden upright framing structures for that property. Therefore, it's my belief, and I did personally drive by this property this past Friday afternoon. And this picture is an accurate representation of how the property looks at the present time. There was, one of the times I've been driving by, no humans there, no indication of any habitat at that location. And I believe 10 months, regardless of the situation, approximately 10 months, regardless of the, should I say, tragedy that may have been following that property owners and that voter's situation, that would be ample time to make a change of address. I'm guessing it's going to take several months to fully complete that house, well past the election of this fall. I believe by my testimony here today, testimony of Administrator Eckert, plus the supplemental that I submitted, and that of the Deputy Sheriff, who testified that there is no residence of that address. I would ask, and I believe I've met the elements of no human being, as posted on my challenge, no human being currently resides at that address. Therefore, I would ask that you would kindly consider to uphold my challenge. Okay.
Thank you very much. You know, I know in my neighborhood, a home was burnt pretty badly. Not as bad as that, but it was very, very bad. And the individuals could not return to that home for almost 1.5 years or 2 years. So I don't know. From our attorney, I'm just thinking if that was me and that happened, and I did not want to change my address because this is my permanent address while the home is being restored, does that make me unable to vote using my address, or can I do a provisional? Mr. Stevenson?
The bottom line is if the person who was living there and registered to vote there at the time of the fire intends to return to that address, that's their address, and they can vote at that address. The fact that they're temporarily dispossessed because of the fire does not mean they have to change their registration or their residence to some other location. Fires are always tricky. We know that this property was not owned by the same person who was registered to vote there, but we don't have any information whether that person is related to this person. We just don't have that information. If there were some information from the owner of the property that this was a tenant and has no intention of returning, that would be a different thing, but that's not what we have here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, and
Mr.
I believe, thank you, that we've attempted to reach the voter unsuccessfully at this point, Mr. Eckert, correct? And with what Mr. Stevenson has just laid out for us, we don't know whether this voter is intending to come back or not. And Mr. Janis's challenge may have merit, but I think unless and until we determine whether or not the voter intends to return, it's premature to challenge the voter at this address, even at this election. Is that correct, Mr. Stevenson?
I think that's correct, and I do want to point out that there's nothing stopping the board from reaching out to the owner of the property to find out more information.
Right, yeah, I mean, my perspective at this point, Madam Chair, is that we're premature, and Mr. Janis, your challenge may have merit, but I don't know that I'm comfortable challenging somebody at this point. I don't know how the other board members.
I concur with Mr. Gerhart.
I concur with Mr. Gerhart because there still is information missing, lacking regarding quite a few variables. And at this point, I would not be comfortable with making a call on that other than I don't see it's applicable for right now.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Mr. Janis, have you spoken to the voter and ascertained whether he or she, I guess, is going to return to this address?
No, I made, through the Ohio voter lookup system, I've attempted to see if they've registered in, for example, in adjacent counties, and I've been unable to. According to my review, they have not, so I'm not even sure where they currently reside.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Janis.
Madam Chair, Mr.
Yes,
Stevenson, we need to take a vote at this point, or on the challenge? What's the process we need to follow?
I think you need to take a vote on the particular challenge. The bottom line is that even if Mr. Janis's challenge is denied, like I said before, there's nothing stopping the board from reaching out to the property owner.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
Is there anything else, Mr. Janis, that you'd like
Yes,
to offer?
just clarification, and with no difference to you, but I guess if I elect to send a letter to the property owner and they respond back by letter indicating that person has no intention of returning, should I refile or would you readdress that situation then?
You would be able to renew your challenge at that point, Mr. Janis.
Okay. Thank you very much for all of your time.
Thank you.
I'd also like to say that any information regarding the need for additional information should come from the Board of Election. I think that would, to me, would be the most, constructive way to do that, rather than having you personally doing that.
So does that mean the board will follow up then? Your board will follow up to the property owner?
Well, it's not our challenge, is it? Is it our?
No, it's not, and whether the board has authority to follow up on it, but there's nothing that would prevent Mr. Janis from
Okay.
following up, and
Okay.
if he chooses to do that, that's up to him.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
Thank
with
you.
that being said, Madam Chair, I would make a motion that we reject deny the challenge at this point.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone abstaining? That motion carries. All right. Thank you again, Mr. Janis. Next on the, our agenda is an update regarding social media. Okay. Ms. Poland?
Sure. The board currently has accounts on social media platforms of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And staff is recommending that we add the social media platform Nextdoor. We think this would be a good tool, especially to recruit poll workers. According to the board's social media policy, the board does need, only the board has the authority to add the social media platforms. So we're recommending that we add Nextdoor.
I remember this being a topic of discussion, and the request was that you go back and review and evaluate and see if this is appropriate, and it sounds like you've done that. Am I correct?
Yes, we have.
Okay. I don't see any problem with us using as a resource Nextdoor. I mean, I know it's a community-oriented, focused app. I've not heard any negative encounters with Nextdoor thus far. I don't know about you all. Have you heard of it? Do you use Nextdoor, any of you?
I do, a little bit. I'm aware of it. But our IT folks are comfortable that it's safe and secure, and there's a way to use it the same way we do Facebook and Twitter. And
Correct.
yeah, as long as our IT team feels comfortable with it, I have no objection to it. Matter of fact, I'll make the motion that we approve the use of Nextdoor as another social media platform from the Board of Elections to communicate with the public.
I second it. I second it. That's okay. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries.
Madam Chair, just for the record, it was social media that distracted me from.
It's an admission against interest.
That's right, that's right. Is there any more business? I see our Secretary of State liaison person is here, and I'd like, Kenny, can you give us an update or any good news from the Secretary of State, or? I know you've been running all over the state with these various
Correct.
responsibilities and looking at equipment and et cetera.
The only thing I have, good morning, and I'm Kenny Henning with the Ohio Secretary of State's office. The only thing I have is last Thursday, I want to pull up the right number. I'm sure Mr. Stevenson, you were sent this from the board, was the update for the advisory 2021-05 in regards to the court's decision for the amount of the stated amount of signatures on the petition. So that was released last week on Thursday. That went out. We had a couple boards reach out about that. And that's really all I have for you this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just have to say, every time I try to contact him, he's somewhere in the state. He's doing great things, and we are so pleased that you are representing us and the liaison for us as well.
Thank you so much. And if you have any questions from our team, Mandy and elections, yep, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else? Does anyone else have anything they'd like to discuss? Mr. Lindsay, do you have anything you want to bring up? All right. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move the we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion to adjourn is approved. Thank you. And our next meeting, I just want to say, our next meeting is Tuesday, October the 12th, 2021 at 8:30 a.m. Everyone have a great rest of the day.